There we go. Welcome to Digital Asset News. Take the top stories in cryptocurrency and digital assets and break them down to bite-sized pieces. So before we start, let's make sure that the audio is set up and the video is not too glitchy. That's the big thing, I think. And I can hear myself and I can see everybody, so I think we're doing okay. First of all, sorry for the lateness. I just had to get a couple of things going, but today should be an interesting one. This is one of those things that just came across my desk, and I didn't really pay too much attention to it, Taproot, because I just thought it was just another simple, small upgrade to Bitcoin. But we're going to take a deep dive into what exactly is going on with Taproot and how this could be, well, I think, a potential massive game changer. And we will go from there. And then there's a couple of things I want to talk about, I think, that are important. Where are we here? Well, let me just say this. We're going to talk about what is Taproot. We're going to take a look at a little quick recording from the CEO who's on Pompliano. This is the CEO, Fred Thiel of Marathon Digital, and he's going to talk about Taproot and what actually it is. We're going to talk, go into a little bit more detail of what's going on, and then we're going to talk about exactly when Taproot, not just the signaling part, but when it actually is going to go live. So we'll take a look at that, which will be a major component. And then I just want to talk about, real quick, about what's going on in the market. It seems like there's a little bit of a dip. This is an old story, a couple of days old, but it is congruent with everything that's going on, especially in China. So Bitcoin's price slips as Weibo suspends crypto influencer accounts. Weibo apparently in China is like the Chinese Twitter. And I'll take a look at that. And finally, I just want to briefly touch on, there's a great interview between Camilla Russo. She was the author of The Invisible Machine, which is that book that just pretty much went through the timeline of the Ethereum Foundation, how it was created, and what everything else that went through it. And she had Terry Crews on, who's an actor. I don't know if you know him. Pretty entertaining guy, pretty smart guy. And what he's talking about in this interview, it's fantastic. And if you haven't watched it, we'll go over that just quickly. But it's a really good example of what cryptocurrency can do as far as like cutting out the middleman and making things work. So we'll go over those things. But first, let's take a look at what is going on into the market. And let's just say this. How's everybody doing? All right. Go Yen, we're all George. I guess everybody who, Cryptos R Us, their live stream I think might still be going on. I think George was doing an article about the FUD of the non-renewables for Bitcoin. I just missed it because I was doing something like this. But here we are. And let's see. Quinn Foster, I think will hopefully have healthy competition between different blockchains to provide solutions. Yes, yes, yes. Good, good, good. All right. My first live with Rob. Well, let's get to it, right? Time is money, and your time is precious. So let's get down to what is going on. So let me get out of here. First, take a look at what's going on in the market. It's amazing to me that we have nothing but good news. We've got El Salvador, we've got Paraguay, we've got even the great state of Texas that I live in. We're talking about just adoption. There was an article put out that Texas banks are going to be leading the charge for custody of crypto assets, control of your crypto assets if you want to go that route. They can also store your private keys. And it looks like we've also got a new player in the game, a $3 trillion company based out of Chicago, Boston, excuse me, that is going into crypto and DeFi, which is interesting that they're going to DeFi. So all this great news and what happens with the market, well, we're down yet again. 1.43%. So if we take a look at what is actually happening as far as like coins and whatnot, Bitcoin, 37,000. So it's down a little bit. Nothing, 0.22, but it's still down. Ethereum's down. It's a red day. Let's just go with that. Anything up? No. It's one of those days when you're like, whew, it only went down 3%, only went down 2%. That's pretty good instead of 15, 20% like we've been seeing. So yeah, it's an interesting time because it's not like there's not just fantastic news about mass adoption thing going on. So to me, I'm always thinking to myself, why are people selling? I mean, really why, if you don't see the future, what's going on, why are people selling? Is it because whales are crashing everything? Is it because there's just more sellers than buyers? Is it just because everybody is freaked out about the volatility and there's just new players coming in? Who knows? But it's hard to gauge. And, I still think we're going to do well in the long term, but in the short term, expect some pain. And that's all I can tell you. So we'll go from there. All right, so let's break into today's top story. All right, so first of all, this was Fred Thiel, and he's the CEO of Marathon Bitcoin Mining Group. I think he's one of the largest Bitcoin mining groups in America. And what he's going to talk about here quickly, just a quick segment, is about Taproot. And when I watched the whole thing. You can watch it. I linked in the description. But for this one, when we take a look at what he says, Taproot is massively undervalued. And I'll just have you take a listen.
Let's talk about Taproot. I know that there was some of this was related to kind of the OFAC compliance and all of that. So maybe just talk a little bit about your understanding of what Taproot is, and then kind of the decision-making process that goes into signaling adoption or not adoption.
Sure. Taproot enables a couple of things. One, it's an underlying change that will enable the creation of smart contracts on the Bitcoin blockchain. This is a really important thing. I think it's undersold because one of the key developments on the Ethereum platform is smart contracts. It lets you do these DeFi businesses. It lets you really take Bitcoin and the blockchain to the next level. So between what people like Stacks are doing and other companies, Taproot is really going to enable the ability to do the smart contract and the ability to have a contract that is gradually exposed as it's executed, which I think is a key part of that. It also allows for multi-sig functions, which is going to be critical going forward. Why it took us longer to signal, we had to migrate all our systems back to the vanilla core. And then we had to slowly bring all those systems up and start signaling for Taproot. So I believe actually today, as we're recording this, we're most probably signaling the first blocks today, most probably.
Okay, and that's pretty much it. So it was interesting that, I didn't know, in a lot of things that I read about Taproot, it was just for more of like a privacy type of setting. It was for delayed deposits, delayed transactions, if you want to do time transactions. And the smart contracts is kind of, I didn't even hear about it, and it got blown over until I heard Fred here talk. And then when he's talking about signaling, all the different Bitcoin miners, they have to signal in some way that they want to approve this. And as they mine the blocks, it's very easy for them to do. It's not like they have to change any type of code. They just put a number in that signals that, yes, they approve of this new initiative, and then off they go. And so far, you have to get a consensus. You have to get the majority to agree to this. It was supposed to be over 90%. I think right now it's like 99% of the miners are like, yes, let's do it. So the signaling already started in March. Looks like they've just approved it and they're going to go forward. And the real question is, well, when is it actually going to happen? And it's not going to happen, if you believe in Andreas Antonopoulos and CoinDesk. They say it's going to happen sometime this fall, perhaps in November. So the signaling's already done, locked in for November activation. So that's what Taproot is. And I think it's interesting because, like, if we can take a look at what is the most important parts of Ethereum, smart contract functionality. If we look at the things that's really going to propel Cardano into the stratosphere, it's smart contract functionality. And I've always heard about all the Bitcoin super maximalists that they would just say, you can do everything on Bitcoin, you can do smart contracts, and do all these things. And I was like, where is it? I'd love to see it. And now here we are. And it's amazing because, like, Cardano in August is going to start off with their smart contracts. Ethereum 2.0 is coming on the pipe. Don't know when that is. Hopefully towards the end of the year, hopefully. And then also we have smart contract functionality for Bitcoin in November. It's exciting times. Let's see who wins out. Let's see if this can actually function on the entire blockchain. And I don't know if it's going to actually happen on the blockchain, on a layer 2 solution or whatnot, but this brings forth DeFi, essentially, to Bitcoin and a lot of things that you can actually do. So we'll see what happens. But I just want to delve down deeper into what Taproot actually is. And we'll just go with that with a nice little article written by Academy at Binance. So what is Taproot? And I'm going to skip most of it because it's boring. But let's just get to the meat and potatoes, huh? It's possible to increase your anonymity through techniques such as coin mixing and coin joins. It's where, like all these hackers, they do that. They take Bitcoin, they mix it all up in some type of rehashing, and they spit it out, and it's harder to track. Now that's impossible, just harder to track. Unfortunately, however, none of these make Bitcoin a private currency, just so you know. While that can't be said for Taproot either, it may increase anonymity on the network, which is nice, but it's not going to be 100% private like a Monero or a Zcash, something like that. But it just helps with anonymity. How does it do that? What's Taproot? Taproot's a soft fork that improves Bitcoin scripts to increase privacy and improve upon other factors related to complex, that's the keyword, complex transactions. Transactions on the Bitcoin network can use various features like time lock releases. That'd be pretty cool. Like, hey, and this is for smart contract functionality also, right? Hey, go fix my house or whatever else, or go fix my furnace, right? And then when something gets triggered, the furnace comes online and it says, oh, now it's fixed if you have a smart home, then those payments get released. Time lock releases, right? That'd be nice. Or you just say, hey, here's another one I guess you could actually do is like if you put your kids in a trust, like when you're 18 years old, Billy, you're going to get X amount of Bitcoin. Boom, time release locks. Multi-signature requirements and others. Without Taproot, anyone can detect transactions that use those complex functionalities, which require the creation of multiple transactions. What a pain in the A that is. But the Taproot upgrade will make it possible to cloak all the moving parts of a Bitcoin transaction that includes these features. So even if the transaction adopts these features, they will look like one single transaction. I think that's pretty ingenious, honestly. And I think that's actually the Schnorr protocol. I can't remember. But if they can do those things where it just looks like one simple transaction, then it's more like it won't hide everything. They know there's going to be a transaction at some point. They just don't know exactly all the different mechanisms and all the unlock features that go along with that. In fact, Taproot makes it possible to hide the fact that a Bitcoin script ran at all. For example, spending Bitcoin using Taproot could make a transaction in a Lightning Network channel, a peer-to-peer transaction, or a sophisticated smart contract become indistinguishable. So pretty nice. And then to finish up, yeah, one of the main advantages of the Schnorr signatures is that they're able to take multiple keys inside a complex Bitcoin transaction and produce a single unique signature. So let's say you have a corporation, and the corporation's like, okay, just to make sure that we don't get hacked, let's make sure that we have multiple signatures across the board, right? So John, Jane, Judy, Smith, whoever, Omar, you guys all have to sign at whenever you want to make sure this transaction goes through. This transaction goes through, but it looks like one simple transaction. This means that signatures from multiple parties involved in the transaction can be aggregated into a signal Schnorr signature. This is known as a signature aggregation. And once that one signature hits, funds go out. Okay. So here's the big thing. How will Taproot benefit Bitcoin? It'll reduce the amount of data to be transferred and stored on the blockchain, more transactions per block. That's interesting. More transactions per block. You know, I think that's a pretty good idea because like the more transactions you have on the block, I wonder if it would actually also, well, transactions per second, right? If it will actually increase the size of the block, or if it can compress those, then it wouldn't be so much data because that's one of the big problems with all these different blocks that are being mined. Once you increase those block size, it increases the memory size, and then it just kind of gums up the whole network. That's kind of what Bitcoin Cash wanted to do, right? Or did do. So we'll see. And this is the big one, lower transaction fees. This is not so much a big deal right now, but it's a big deal when people start to use Bitcoin a heck of a lot more. And I'm going to let the CEO of Mara talk about this as far as like the future. And I'm going to go back to it in a second. But remember in 2017, when everybody got their hands on Bitcoin, it almost shut the whole network down because it took so long to do the transactions, and there was such a high transaction fee. People immediately figured out this is not ready for prime time currency. There's no way this can happen, and it wasn't. And here, hopefully, this works out. Another benefit to Taproot is the fact that signatures will no longer be malleable, which is a known security risk in the Bitcoin network. This was interesting, and it scared me because I didn't know this part. Simply put, signature malleability means that it's technically possible to alter the signature of a transaction before it gets confirmed. If they do this, the attack would make it appear as if the transaction never happened, which leaves Bitcoin exposed on the infamous double spend problem, which could ruin the integrity of the entire ledger. And we had this little thing come about with BitMEX like 4 or 5 months ago. They said there was a double spend. And then they clarified, said, no, it was some other type of issue. So when I saw this, I'm like, wow, that could have actually happened. Amazing, the things you don't know. You don't know that you don't know. And now that you know, you're like, well, I'm glad that this is actually coming through, and it comes in November. So hold on to your hats. Or as Alex says, hold on to your handlebars. And that's it for that section. And I want to talk about the future real quick. And what Fred says here is going to make a lot of sense. And if you think that we're like in the third inning or the fifth inning of crypto, listen to this right now. This is no. What Fred is looking forward to. Listen to this.
That you're like, hey, when this happens, like that'll be the next kind of big inflection point in terms of interest or anything like that?
Yeah, when we start seeing DeFi businesses launching on Bitcoin, when we start seeing identity management platforms launching on Bitcoin, when we start seeing tokenized ownership of assets launching on Bitcoin, that's when we're starting to see the real mainstream. You know, if you go back to the internet analogy, you know, late 90s, you had to buy Unix servers and write custom software to set up a website, and it was, you know, a multi-million-dollar exercise. Today, you want to sell online, you go set up a Shopify store. It's super easy. And
that's right. That is exactly right. That is how, at the beginning part of what this whole journey is going to be. So if you think like, this is, you know, we're so far, trust me, I'm a kid of the 90s, well, a kid of the 80s. And I can just tell you right now that even back then, we thought when the internet came out, we're like, this is crazy. It only takes us 5 minutes to download a picture. Can you imagine how long it would take to mail a picture? Holy smokes. We can write an email to anybody in the country or even the world if they have a computer and send it and it gets there in seconds. That's insane because I got to put it through the PO box and that takes forever. That's exactly what we thought. So today, I guarantee in 10 years, we're going to look back and it's like, can you believe we did that? That's crazy. It's so much easier now. We just do this, and then we have this digital assets all over the world. And remember when we use this thing called money? Whoa, that was crazy. Paper? Who'd use that? So again, I think if you think we're late in the game, we're not. And that's it for that piece. So tell me what you think about that in the comments section. I'll get to that at the very last part. But let's move on to, if I can find it, this piece here. So Weibo, I think, let me make sure. It's a blogging website. Okay. So not like Twitter, blogging website. Okay, makes sense. And I didn't hear anything about this, so I wanted to cover it real quick because I'm always curious, like, why is the price dropping? Why is everybody selling? I mean, is it whatever it is? Here's part of it. Again, China FUD and all these things. I don't really care about China. China's already staked their game. They're gone, okay? And not the Chinese people. They want crypto. The Chinese government does not. So let's just call a spade and go, well, you're out of the game. I mean, you're only 1.6 billion people. We've got 5 billion people left. I think we're going to go for it. India's on board, so yeah, whatever. Have fun with your digital yuan. So on Saturday, Chinese users on Weibo started to share that as many as 25 accounts of influencers and media outlets who have been active in this space became inaccessible. And this just piggybacks on the different thing that the Chinese government is doing as far as like shutting down Chinese mining operations. And again, if they don't want to deal with crypto, we'll pick up the mantle. We have no problems. We did a video about that yesterday. The names of most of the suspended accounts today did bear terms such as Bitcoin, BTC, blockchain, and CoinTrader. Bitcoin's dropped by 3% immediately after the Weibo suspension news began to circulate among the Chinese crypto community. And it is, I still believe that it is a global community. I believe that different parts in the Asian market are still getting into crypto, whether they use VPNs or whatever they do to get into it. So sure, it dipped to as low as 35.3 on Coinbase Pro, and now changing hands around 35.8. And it's just one more piece that people go, man, Chinese government's really cracking down on mining. Chinese government is talking about banning this. Now Chinese government is actually banning influencers. It's like this domino effect. So people get spooked and they're like, it's gone. But when people ask you about China, just go, China doesn't want that. We're good. We've got 5 billion, 6 billion people in the globe that want it. If they don't want it, that's fine. They didn't want the internet. They didn't really want Google over there. Seems to be okay. Didn't really work out for Facebook either. And guess what? Facebook is the top 5 companies in the world. We don't need China. The suspension follows comments issued by China State Council, meaning that mentioned how a crackdown on Bitcoin trading activities will be a priority in maintaining financial stability. So they're just pretty much telling you, we're done. And that's it. So I thought this is just one more piece of FUD news. We just need to get past China and then off we go, because everybody else seems to be on board. Even the American government's looking for ways to get in where they fit in, as I always like to say. So let me just think in the comment section. Let's move on to our last piece. And this is just going to be real quick. I thought this was interesting. Camilla Russo's good author, one of my favorites. I read that book, loved that book. It just gave me a great insight into Ethereum. And I'm not going to play any part of this interview. I want you to go watch it. It's really good. Terry Crews, actor, but more importantly, he's an artist. And he talks about, first of all, he talks about a situation in 2017 when he tried to get a cash advance from his credit card. I think it was MasterCard or something like that. And he was in Italy or someplace in Europe. I thought it was in Italy. And he tried to get it out. And as rich as Terry is, as famous as Terry is, and as, you know, everything that everybody that knows him, they even knew him when he walked into the bank. They shut him down and they said, no, you're not getting school. You're not getting anything. And he was like, you telling me I can't use my own money? I make a ton of money and I'm famous. Pretty much what he said. And he's like, I don't understand. He goes, so if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. He goes, that's when I took that rabbit hole and took a look at Bitcoin and took a look at Ethereum and then took a look at DeFi and then took a look at tokenization. He's actually tokenized himself and a bunch of different artists. And he talks about eliminating the middleman. And he had a great quote, and I'm going to use this, I'm going to totally steal it from him. He says, he goes, Bitcoin's like gold, right? And but Ethereum, that's what I build on, because I build businesses too. He goes, so if Bitcoin's like gold, then Ethereum's like oil. And oil that runs your machines, run your businesses, runs everything. So I need more oil, and I'm going to use that. And I was like, perfect analogy. Because when I try to explain Bitcoin, it's hard enough. But if I want to explain Ethereum, goes over people's heads. So I'm just going to say, you just build on it. It's just a protocol. And it's like the oil of decentralized whatever you want to do. And you can build your businesses and blah, 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 blah. That's what I'm going to use. So definitely check that out. That is in the description under video links. So check it out. Watch the whole thing. It's 56 minutes. I always watch things on like 1.5x, 2x speed. But the stories he tells, and he talks about how the different companies have screwed him over time and time again. He's had 5 different financial planners, financial advisors, and he goes, they all lied to me, every single one of them, because it's about control. He goes, but with decentralization and the way that they're setting up this token for artists, he goes, that doesn't happen. And that's what makes it a trustless system, and he loves it. So check that out. And that is it for today. So look, all this information that we have is great, but just be aware that the market is going through a lot of turbulence right now, trying to figure out where it really belongs. I still have long-term thoughts, and I still think things are going to do well. Just I don't see it really going up anytime soon. I think it's going to be a nice flat line for a while. Give it till August, September, and we'll go from there. So let me, that is it for the regular video. Let's go into the chat and talk to some people and see where my thinking was congruent or not. We'll go from there. If I had an indoor pool, I'd probably have a Navy too. This looks great, but today it's gonna be 105 degrees here in El Paso, and I'll be out here sweating away doing editing, because this is my office. So the price of Bitcoin, Weibo is kind of a huge track site in China. Yeah. Well, Wong, I had no idea, because guess what? I don't go to it. So thanks for telling me. Being from a port city, I'd have icebreakers and one carrier. I bought Corgib, sure. Spy Master Lord Zuckerberg. Weibo is China owned, China version of Twitter. Okay. The Chinese government seemed very friendly to Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision's members. And also, they bring out a yearly crypto report, so that should tell you something. I don't know why they're doing it. If they're going to have the digital yuan, I'm pretty sure they want to keep control. I don't think that's going to happen. Nobody built on ETH. I don't think so, Cripsy Kid. Everybody built on ETH. Gel in the chair. Alex Rodriguez, 6G7 need to approve crypto. Look, you you're going to have President Joe Biden go there to the G7. And what he's going to talk about is not that he wants to ban crypto. What he's going to talk about is regulation around cryptocurrency and digital assets. That is what's going to put things on the forefront. And even if you go back to that interview with Pompliano and the CEO of Mara, he even says exactly the sentiment that I've been sharing with you guys for a long time, which is the same thing. We need a little regulation just to see where we are so that institutions and companies can really get in here. Now, some people will disagree with me, but look at all the rug pulling that still is going on in DeFi. People still get screwed out of their money. Will regulation help? Maybe a little, but it will give clarity to the situation as far as crypto. And then these businesses that want to come in and say, all right, we want to invest, we want to talk to our clients and so on and so forth. That'll be great. Even Brad Garlinghouse from Ripple says it the same thing. We need clarity. We want to know. And we need clarity on? The IRS. They need to figure out exactly how they want to tax everything, because they're going to tax it, right? They're going to tax everything. And then, because right now we see crypto is defined as in the IRS as property, correct? However, if different countries are going to adopt it as currency, then you can't tax currency. It doesn't work like that. I mean, you can tax gains as far as you do arbitrage and things like that. But another thing is, well, what about with DeFi? What about when you get airdrops? What about for your liquidity providers and the percentage gains that you actually get? How do you compound that and how do you tax that? Just give us some clarity so we know exactly what it is. And I think people wouldn't be so damn nervous to get in. That's just my 2 cents. All right. And that's my soapbox. Back to the chats. Bro, Biden can't remember what he ate. Yeah, probably true. I can't remember what I ate either yesterday. So I don't think that's really in Houston, it's supposed to hit 93 degrees. Oh, wish I was back in Houston. Thoughts on El Salvador and the IMF? Look, they had a meeting, they had a sit down yesterday. And what was great about El Salvador is they already approved Bitcoin to be legal tender. So when they met with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, there was probably some, the IMF were like the adults in the room. I guess that's what they thought. And I can't speak to it because I wasn't there. Shocker. But I can just say this. I can see how it would be going. I'm sure they weren't happy. I'm sure they weren't like, yeah, that's what we want. We want some digital asset, some cryptocurrency so we can give up the power that we have and go right ahead. I'm sure they were like, look, we really need to get to regulation and there's some dangerousness and also the illicit activity that is being used by cryptocurrency, which is such a bogus argument. Let's be honest. What have the cartels been using for so long? What has terrorism been using for so long? It's been the dollar. The dollar is the #1 illicit activity use. And that's just the truth. So if you're going to tell me that Bitcoin's being used, well, I mean, there was that ransomware with the Colonial Pipeline attack, but guess what? It was actually able to be tracked, and the FBI went and seized it. They didn't seize they didn't hack the Bitcoin. The hackers had used a cloud server storage device. It's a cloud server, and they went and took that over, which was dumb. I don't know why they did it. Probably the worst hackers of all time. So they just should put on a cold storage. They would have got away scot-free. Stupid. Deutsche Bank, best at laundering. Absolutely. All banks are great at laundering. They've been in the game for a long time. And that's why they get so many fees. Or not so many people coming in there and going, we need to give you a little slap on the wrist. Like, oh, what are you going to give us? $1 billion. That's okay because we made 10 billion. So we're okay with paying 1 billion. Suckers. That's what it is. It's the cost of doing business. How high do you see Bitcoin dominance coming back to? Well, this smart contract comes into play, and we actually see some things being built on it. As far as DeFi, I can see a massive turnaround, especially for the people that are getting into. I always see Bitcoin as being snatched up by central banks to be a reserve currency, just like they snatch up gold as like a hedge. I see other governments who are using the US dollar and have extreme volatility and problems to adopt Bitcoin as well. So I see Bitcoin going up. DeFi on top of that would be fantastic, especially these different places. Now, do I think that DeFi will work everywhere? Yeah, actually I do. I think, though, that there's some better options. Look at what Cardano is doing in sub-Saharan Africa. Look at what World Mobile Token is. I talk about it all the time. Look at what World Mobile Token is doing. It is building on the Cardano blockchain, which will go live as far as like smart contracts in August. And they've done it twofold. They've built the infrastructure. They give these people the last mile for telecommunications and internet. And they put up these pods to do a surrounding area so they can have internet and communications. And they give it to them. They say, we're going to have you guys use that. Also, the solar panel that you use can actually power your village. And they've already done this in a couple of villages. I think it was Tanzania. And then on top of that, they're going to use the token, the World Mobile Token. And that, I don't know if I can say this. I talked to the guys over there, but it's coming out within the next couple of weeks when you actually buy it. That's all I know. All right. And yeah, thanks everybody. That's about it. And yeah, so here's the thing about Paul. This is my mess up. Usually when I have a guest, I use Zoom. And when I had the Zoom meeting up, for some reason, there was some glitch and it wouldn't allow me to go live. So Paul wasn't able to get in. But let me show you. Let me give Paul a great plug because he's a great guy. I love him. Love him. Follow Paul. And I'll tell you why. Paul is an entrepreneur. He's big into real estate, also really big into tech. And he doesn't just talk about cryptocurrency, he talks about interesting stuff as well. So he talks about drone delivery as a service. He talked about Theta Fuel yesterday. I was on his show a couple of days ago. Hey, 7,200 views, not too bad. Where we talked about the Death Cross, and we also talked about Theta and T-Fuel. And there was one really good one where he talked about 3D printing for houses. So it's just a lot of different information. Follow Paul, just put in Paul Baron Network, and he will come up. And that is it. So, all right, everybody, that's all I got for today. I don't want to keep too much of your time. So if you like the video,